presentation and what we see is being discussed and the information that will be presented. I brought this today. I don't know if any of you remember seeing this. This was a downtown Amarillo strategic action plan that was actually authenticated and approved by a previous group working on downtown back in March of 2008. This morning I just took the time to kind of go through it and look at it. And one thing I remember specifically about this plan was, you know, we want to make sure that this doesn't just gather dust on some shelf somewhere, and we don't work on the action plans and the things that were mentioned in here. If you go back and you look in this document, you will see many things that have been going on over the last couple of years, including the implementation of urban design standards, including discussions today that you'll hear about a hotel, multi-purpose entertainment venue, parking. We've also had discussions that you've heard about in the public about the public improvement district and about, you know, security needs for downtown. All those things that we're talking about are in this document here. And I think we should be really excited and pleased that the leadership of the city and the various boards and committees, and I know it seems like there's 17 different organizations working on this, but really it takes every single one of them to be able to look at the implementation of the Downtown Strategic Action Plan. If you look back at March of 2008, this is really all we had was this document. Since then, there's been the formation of Downtown Amarillo Incorporated, which was formed in late 2008. In May of 2009, we hired a full-time director, Melissa Daly, who came on board to try and gear us and tell us what we didn't know, which was really a lot. There was a lot of learning involved in this. About a year or so ago in this process, and looking at what we need to do, Downtown Amarillo Inc. and particularly Melissa met with Dave Wallace and his partners with Wallace Vijali Development Corporation. We had heard of them. I don't think at the time they'd really heard of us other than knowing that Amarillo was here, but they didn't know what was going on with downtown. After meeting with them at Waco and seeing some of the other things that they've done, there were discussions about looking at if they might be interested in helping us here. Those discussions led to kind of a letter of intent that we signed with them about a year or so ago. And beginning in February of this year, the City of Amarillo entered into an agreement that we're here today to talk about, which is looking at a particular strategic group of projects in the center city area of downtown Amarillo to help serve as a kickstart of some major redevelopment in downtown. If there's one thing that I think we've learned in the last several years of looking at this is that if you go back and look at any redevelopment project, whether it's downtown or whether it's somewhere else in the community, it takes a major strategic, usually public-private partnership project of significant size to help provide momentum. When you have that kind of investment, other investors see that they want to come in, it gives confidence to others to be able to say, wait a minute, there's something going on there, it's worth my investment. But it takes a key public-private partnership investment to do that. You just don't see the public carrying all the weight on these projects, and you just don't see the private side carrying all the weight. It's really ability to work together. And so today, after many months of work and a lot of due diligence, Dave Wallace is here to kind of give us their suggestion for a blueprint on how we can take the next step for our consideration. And I really think we couldn't have better partners to work with us on this. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. I do appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Board members of the Local Government Corporation, thank you once again for meeting. And I do want to thank you for all of the time. I realize that this is not your full-time job. I realize that this is a commitment to the community, and I want to thank you for the amount of time that you have given, whether it's an open session, closed executive session. There's been a lot of time that you have committed to this, so thank you for that commitment. I also want to say something about the leadership here within this community and at all different levels, whether it's the city commission, the mayor, whether it's the city manager, director of finance, city attorney. This is a tremendous organization, and everybody that we have worked with has been over backwards to try to help this community. How can we improve the quality of life in this community? And I truly want to thank Jared, Dean, Marcus, Vicki, everyone else that has really been over backwards to help. So thank you. And with that, Les, I know that these are the topics that we're going to be going through in a moment. And we'll walk through what the history was, which Les, you've already given a good overview, because this is not something that just started 18 months ago when we first met with Melissa Daly in the city of Waco, but it's something that started a good 20 years ago. Center City was created. There was a whole evolution of a process. And so we're going to talk about that as well as some of our conclusions. But as Les indicated, in February of this year, we entered into a development agreement, we being Wallace Virgelli, with the city of Amarillo. It's something that I think all of you have had the opportunity to meet myself, as well as Joe Esch. Joe is here today as well. Joe is our economic development guru, responsible for economic development and public policy within our firm, and is no foreigner to economic development, as he spent the last 20 plus years of his life doing that for different cities, the most recent one being the city of Sugar Land when we first met. The overall project, this has been something that we have gotten a great deal of public input as we've gone through the last 18 months. I know that there have been a number of studies. Les, you indicated that you don't want to have a study that basically just ends up on the shelf somewhere gaining dust, but you want it to be something that is a living, breathing document. And that's exactly what has taken place here when the community has reached out through a number of public focus groups, through design charrettes, public hearings, public meetings, and the process that we've gone through to develop this overall site plan that we have today is no different. And that's something that we would continue to go back to the drawing board, get input from this community as to what assets they were looking for, where they wanted those assets, and then move forward to make sure that we were trying to create a sense of place. And that's exactly what we've done here. You can see this, obviously we're sitting in City Hall right now, but right across Buchanan from City Hall, which is number 2, building number 2, that is the hotel. That is where the new 300-room hotel that would have a Wyndham flag, as well as banquet space, ballroom space, incorporated in that. And I might add that obviously there's a needs assessment study that the city is presently undertaking right now for the Civic Center, and we're working closely with those consultants, as well as with Sherman and others within the city, to make sure that we're not duplicating space, to make sure that the space that we're talking about, banquet space, ballroom space, will be additive to the overall region. Right next to that, which is the structure number 3, is the parking garage. That would be the first of 2 parking garages. That first parking garage would be roughly 750 spaces directly behind City Hall, which would be on this side of the building. On the opposite side, there would be about another 500 spaces, which would be part of the Phase 2 project. Due south of City Hall, you can see, I believe that's number 1, is the multi-purpose event venue. The reason we chose this particular design, we're trying to create a sense of place. I know that there have been a number of discussions of 2 potential hotel assets, one being a renovation of the Herring Hotel, the second one being a brand new build, which is what we are recommending right now. We'll talk a little bit later about the Herring Hotel because we think that in subsequent phases that could be a tremendous asset for downtown Amarillo. However, as we go through this rendering, we're trying to create a sense of place so that we can have what Les talked about was a strong concentration of assets in one particular area where we could do that development, and development from beyond that could basically spill out. We've got countless examples, Sugar Land, which we were involved with from the public sector, and then the city of Waco from the private sector. Waco, if you'll recall, we invested about $80 million, and it was all within 5 city blocks.